Admiral Kyung-ho Park stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, trying to look nervous. Around him, representatives from dozens of alien species sat in floating chairs that glowed with soft light. Their technology made Earth's best inventions look like stone tools. The Thessian Council leader, Veltereth, looked down at Kyung-ho with 6 purple eyes. His voice sounded like music, but there was no kindness in it. "So, humans, you wish to join our great alliance against the Devourer threat. Tell us about your military strength." Kyung-ho activated his simple holographic display. It flickered and made small, sparking sounds that made several aliens shake their heads in disappointment. 200 human ships appeared in the air above them. The ships looked rough and ugly compared to the smooth alien vessels parked outside. "This is our entire fleet," Kyung-ho said, making his voice shake slightly. "We know it's not much, but we want to help however we can." A Valorian admiral named Korthax laughed. His species looked like tall golden birds with 4 arms. 200 ships? Our smallest patrol groups have more vessels than your entire navy. "What weapons do they carry?" asked another alien, this one covered in scales that changed color. Kyung-ho pressed another button. The display showed simple kinetic weapons, basically large guns that shot metal bullets. "We use these railguns and missile systems. Our shields are basic electromagnetic barriers." The aliens in the hall started talking to each other in their musical languages. Kyung-ho could hear the mockery even without understanding their words. They thought humans were primitive children trying to play with adults. Veltereth raised one of his 4 hands for silence. "Very well, humans. We accept your offer of help. You will serve in the support division. Your job will be to carry supplies and rescue survivors when real warships get damaged." Kyung-ho bowed deeply. "Thank you for this honor. We will not disappoint you." As the meeting ended, Dr. Hyejin Choi approached him. She was Earth's diplomatic attaché, a small woman who wore thick glasses and seemed to jump at every loud sound. "Admiral Park, should I prepare reports on their ship designs for our engineers back home?" "Yes, Dr. Choi. Document everything you can," Kyung-ho said quietly. Several aliens walked past them, still chuckling about humanity's pathetic fleet. What they didn't know was that Dr. Choi had perfect memory and was recording everything through hidden devices in her glasses. She was noting the weaknesses in their ship designs, their tactical preferences, and their obvious overconfidence. Far away on Earth, Fleet Commander So-Young Kim stood in a command center buried deep under the Pacific Ocean. Hundreds of screens showed star maps, ship positions, and tactical data. Her staff moved quietly around her, monitoring communications from across human space. "Report from Admiral Park came through," said her aide, Commander Yijun Seo. "The aliens bought the deception completely. They think our support division ships are our entire military." So-Young nodded. "Good. What's the status of the real fleet?" Yijun touched his tablet, and new displays lit up around the room. The screens showed thousands of hidden bases scattered across dozens of star systems. Inside hollowed-out asteroids, massive shipyards built vessels that would make the aliens' technology look outdated. Entire moons had been converted into weapon testing facilities. "The first real fleet is ready. Admiral Subino reports all 5,000 ships are armed and waiting. The Siegebreaker Division finished their new armor plating last week. Admiral Dong-Hyun Lim says his ships can now ram through a space station and keep fighting." "What about the experimental weapons?" So-Young asked. A new voice answered from behind them. Engineer Tae-Min Lee walked up carrying a tablet covered in warning labels. "The quantum disruptors are ready. The Devourers use connected machine minds to coordinate their attacks. Our weapons can break those connections and turn their advantage into chaos." So-Young smiled. "The aliens think we're primitive because we use kinetic weapons instead of energy beams. They don't understand that sometimes the old ways work better than the new ones." On a research station hidden in the asteroid belt, Professor Min-A Jung studied captured Devourer technology. The machines had attacked several outer rim worlds, and human salvage teams had secretly collected pieces of their ships before alien investigators arrived. Her team had discovered something important. The Devourers weren't just machines. They absorbed the brain patterns of organic species they conquered. This made them smarter with each victory, but it also created a weakness. "Commander CO, are you receiving this data?" she asked over the communication link. "Yes, Professor Young, what did you find?" "Human brain chemistry is different from other species. The devourers can't absorb our neural patterns properly. More importantly, our thought processes can disrupt their collective intelligence. We might be naturally immune to their main weapon." Back in the Galactic Council chambers, Kyung-ho was meeting with other support division commanders. Most were from species the aliens considered weak or unimportant. A few were genuinely primitive, but others seemed to be hiding their true capabilities just like humanity. "The Devourers hit 3 more worlds this week," reported a commander from the Kalari species. "The main fleet couldn't stop them. They're asking for more support division ships to help with evacuations." Kyung-ho nodded. "We'll send Captain Jinwoo Nam with 50 ships. Make sure they see our vessels taking damage and barely surviving. We need to maintain the image of being barely competent." Dr. Choi had been listening to alien conversations all day. She approached Kyung-ho after the other commanders left. "Admiral, I've learned something interesting. The aliens have been fighting the same way for thousands of years. They rely on energy shields, plasma weapons, and formation flying. They've never adapted their tactics because nothing has ever forced them to change. That explains why they're losing to the Devourers," Kyung-ho said. "Rigid thinking meets an adaptive enemy." "There's something else," Dr. Choi continued. "They're not just dismissive of us. They're dismissive of any new ideas. They think their way is the only way because it's worked for so long." Kyung-ho looked out the window at the alien fleet. Thousands of beautiful ships floated in perfect formations around the council station. They looked impressive, but he knew they were about to face an enemy that didn't follow their rules. "Dr. Choi, send a coded message to Earth. Tell Fleet Commander Kim that the aliens are exactly as predictable as we hoped. The Devourers are adapting to alien tactics, but they won't be ready for human warfare." As night fell on the council station, Kyung-ho stood alone in his quarters. Through his window, he could see human ships docked far from the prestigious alien vessels. They looked small and rough, like scrap metal compared to the aliens' graceful designs. But those ships carried weapons that could punch holes through alien armor. They were built to survive damage that would destroy prettier vessels. Most importantly, they were crewed by humans who had trained their entire lives for the war that was coming. The galaxy had no idea what humanity was really capable of. Soon, they would learn the difference between looking weak and being weak. The Devourers thought they were fighting the same old alien tactics they had learned to counter. They were about to discover that humans fight differently than anyone else in the galaxy. The alarm bells rang across the galactic fleet when the Devourers struck Kepler 442. The industrial world had been pumping out weapons and ships for the war effort when 3,000 machine vessels appeared from hyperspace and began their attack. Admiral Korthax commanded the response fleet from his golden flagship. 2,000 of the galaxy's finest warships moved in perfect formation toward the planet. Their energy shields glowed like stars, and their plasma weapons charged with deadly light. "All ships, standard battle formation," Korthax commanded. "Energy shields to maximum. Plasma cannons ready. We'll show these machines why the Galactic Alliance has ruled space for 10,000 years." The alien fleet engaged the Devourers exactly as they had planned. Bright beams of energy crossed the darkness between the fleets. The aliens' shields held strong against the first wave of machine attacks. Their plasma weapons burned through several Devourer ships. For 10 minutes it looked like the battle would go as expected. Then the Devourers adapted. The machine ships suddenly changed their approach. Instead of trading energy fire, they began ramming attacks. Their hulls proved stronger than expected, punching through energy shields that had never failed before. Devourer boarding pods attached to alien ships and began cutting through their elegant armor plating. Within an hour, half the galactic fleet was destroyed or disabled. The remaining ships fled in panic, their perfect formations broken and their confidence shattered. Captain Jinwoo Nam received the retreat order while his 50 human ships hung back in the support division position. Around him, alien vessels raced away from the battle, many trailing atmosphere and debris from damaged hulls. "Sir, should we follow the retreat?" asked his weapons officer, Lieutenant Yunsu Park. Jinwoo studied the tactical display. 300 Devourer ships were chasing the fleeing aliens, but over 2,000 more were still attacking the planet. The industrial facilities below were burning, and millions of civilians needed evacuation. "No," Jinwoo said quietly. "Send a message to the other human ships. We're going to cover the evacuation transports." His crew looked surprised. They were supposed to be the weak support division, barely capable of hauling supplies. Engaging. The Devourers in direct combat was suicide. "Sir, our orders are to evacuate non-essential personnel," his navigator said carefully. "Those people down there are essential to me," Jinwoo replied. "All ships, attack formation Jin Alpha. Let's show these machines what human engineering can do." The 50 human vessels turned toward Kepler 442. They looked tiny compared to the massive Devourer ships, and their rough construction made them appear almost primitive. The aliens fleeing the battle shook their heads in pity for the humans, about to be destroyed. Then the shooting started and everything changed. The human ships didn't use energy shields like the aliens. Instead, they relied on thick armor plating and redundant systems. When Devourer plasma beams hit them, the ugly human vessels absorbed the damage and kept fighting. Their kinetic weapons proved devastatingly effective against machine enemies. While alien energy weapons had to overcome shields and energy absorption systems, human rail guns simply punched physical holes through Devourer hulls. The machines had adapted to counter energy-based attacks, but they weren't prepared for old-fashioned projectiles. Lieutenant Commander Hae-won Kim led the first human boarding action against a Devourer mothership. Her Marines carried electromagnetic pulse weapons that short-circuited machine intelligence networks. Within minutes, they had seized control of a ship that alien forces had been unable to even damage. "This is impossible," Admiral Korthax said, from his retreat position. He watched through long-range sensors as human ships tore through Devourer formations that had just destroyed his advanced fleet. "Their technology is primitive. How are they succeeding where we failed?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Hyejin Choi had been monitoring alien communications from her position on evacuation transport. She contacted Admiral Korthax directly. "Admiral, your energy weapons are very advanced, but the Devourers have been studying them for years. They know how to counter every plasma beam and every energy shield in your arsenal." "Then how are your crude weapons working?" Korthax demanded. "Because they're not crude," Dr. Choi replied. "They're different. You've been fighting the same way for thousands of years. Humans learned to fight differently." Captain Jinwoo coordinated the evacuation while his ships held off the Devourer fleet. Human vessels darted between the massive machine ships, their superior maneuverability allowing them to strike and retreat before the slower Devourers could respond effectively. The key difference was in their construction. Alien ships were built for elegance and efficiency, with centralized systems and streamlined designs. Human ships were built like armored boxes, with backup systems for their backup systems. When a Devourer beam cut through the bridge of the UES Determination, the ship kept fighting from its secondary command center. When the engines were damaged, backup drives kicked in immediately. "Their boarding pods can't penetrate our armor effectively," reported Commander Soo-Jin Lee from the UES Resilience. "Our hulls are too thick and our internal bulkheads are too strong. They're designed for cutting through alien materials, not human steel." Within 4 hours, the human ships had evacuated 3 million civilians from Kepler 442 and destroyed over 200 Devourer vessels. They lost only 7 ships in the process, and even those continued fighting until their crews could be rescued. The alien fleet watched in amazement as the humans completed their mission and withdrew in good order. The species they had dismissed, as barely competent, had just achieved what the galaxy's finest military forces could not. Admiral Korthax demanded a private meeting with Admiral Kyung-ho Park as soon as the fleets returned to base. The Valorians' golden feathers were ruffled with agitation and confusion. "I need to understand what happened out there," Korthax said. "Your ships used primitive weapons and crude armor, but they performed better than our most advanced technology. How is this possible? Kyung-ho maintained his nervous demeanor but allowed a small smile. Humans think about warfare differently than other species, Admiral. We don't assume that new technology is always better than old technology. Sometimes, a simple approach works better than a complex one. But your casualties should have been massive. Your ships took damage that would have destroyed any of ours. Human ships are built to be damaged and keep fighting, Kyung-ho explained. We design everything with the assumption that it will be hit, broken, and partially destroyed. Your ships are beautiful and efficient, but they're fragile when things go wrong. Behind the scenes, Commander Yi-jun Seo was preparing his report for Earth. He met with Captain Jin-woo in a secure communication room aboard the human flagship. How did our weapons perform against Devourer technology? Yi-jun asked. Better than expected, Jin-woo replied. Their hulls are designed to deflect and absorb energy weapons, but kinetic projectiles punch right through them. Our electromagnetic pulse weapons completely disrupted their command systems. What about their adaptive capabilities? Jin-woo paused. That's the concerning part. By the end of the battle, they were already beginning to adjust to our tactics. A few of their ships had reinforced their hulls against kinetic weapons. If we fight them again with the same approach, it won't be as easy, Yi-jun nodded. This confirmed what Earth strategists had predicted. The Devourers learned from every encounter, which meant humanity's current tactical advantage was temporary. Send word to Fleet Commander Kim, Yi-jun said. Phase 1 of the deception is complete. The aliens now know we're more capable than we appeared, but they still think this is our maximum effort. What about Phase 2? The Devourers will adapt to our current weapons and tactics. When they do, we'll reveal our next level of capability. Each time they learn to counter us, we'll show them something they've never seen before. As the reports reached Earth, Fleet Commander So-young Kim stood in her command center reviewing the battle data. The first engagement had gone exactly as planned. Humanity had revealed enough capability to gain respect, but not enough to show their true strength. The Devourers destroyed half the alien fleet in one battle, she told her staff. This confirms our intelligence about their adaptive capabilities. They study their enemies and develop countermeasures quickly. Are you concerned about our tactical advantage? Asked Engineer Taemin Lee. So-young smiled. Not at all. The Devourers think they're fighting against human tactics now. They don't realize we've been studying them for 3 years and have developed 17 different approaches to this war. When do we reveal the real fleet? When the galaxy is desperate enough to stop asking questions about where we've been, hiding 500,000 ships. The Galactic Council was beginning to realize that they had seriously underestimated humanity. But they still had no idea just how wrong their first impressions had been. The Devourers struck 12 worlds simultaneously across the galaxy. Their coordinated assault was unlike anything the aliens had seen before. Each attack force seemed to know exactly how to counter the local defense fleets, as if the machines had studied every battle tactic in galactic military history. Admiral Korthak stood in the emergency session of the Galactic Council, his golden feathers dulled with exhaustion. Around him, representatives from dozens of species argued in panicked voices. Their confidence was gone, replaced by desperate fear. We've lost 4 worlds completely, Korthax reported. 8 more are under siege. Our remaining fleets are scattered across the galaxy trying to respond to simultaneous attacks. We need more ships immediately. All eyes turned to Admiral Kyung-ho Park. The human representative sat quietly in his simple chair, appearing thoughtful but not panicked like the others. Admiral Park, Council Leader Veltareth said, his musical voice strained with stress. Your support division performed remarkably well at Kepler 442. We need you to commit more forces to this war. Kyung-ho hesitated, looking uncomfortable. Council Leader, we've already sent 2/3 of our fleet. We have only a few hundred ships remaining to defend Earth and our colonies. This is a galactic emergency, pressed another alien representative. Surely your homeworld can spare additional vessels. Dr. Hyejin Choi leaned forward from her position behind Kyung-ho. Perhaps we could mobilize our reserve training fleet. They're not fully equipped, but they might be able to help with evacuations and supply runs. Kyung-ho appeared to consider this carefully. Very well, I can authorize the deployment of our second expeditionary force, another 300 ships, though I warn you, they're even less advanced than our first deployment. The aliens accepted this offer gratefully. They were too desperate to question why humanity seemed to have more ships than they had originally claimed. 3 days later, Captain Yoon Han led the second human expeditionary force into battle at the besieged world of Altair Prime. Her 300 ships looked even rougher than the previous human fleet, with mismatched hull plating and weapons that appeared to be hastily installed. The Devourer force besieging Altair Prime had learned from their encounter with humans at Kepler 442. Their ships now carried reinforced armor against kinetic weapons and electromagnetic shielding against pulse attacks. They were ready for human tactics. They weren't ready for new human tactics. Captain Han's fleet approached the battle zone using a formation that made no sense to either alien or machine observers. Her ships spread out in seemingly random patterns with no clear command structure or coordination. "This is Captain Han to all vessels," she broadcast on an open channel that the Devourers could intercept. "Remember, we're just a training fleet. Stay together and don't try anything fancy." The Devourers adapted their attack patterns based on this intelligence. They prepared for a disorganized assault by poorly trained humans using the same weapons they had already countered. Instead, they encountered something completely different. The human ships suddenly linked together with energy tethers that appeared from hidden systems in their hulls. The entire fleet became a single flexible formation that could bend and twist like a living creature. When Devourer weapons targeted individual ships, the energy was distributed across the entire network. "What, in the name of the ancient gods, is that?" asked the alien fleet commander, observing from a safe distance. The networked human fleet flowed around Devourer defensive positions like water around rocks. Individual ships would detach from the network to strike at vulnerable points, then reconnect, before the machines could retaliate effectively. But the most shocking surprise came when the humans revealed their new weapons. Instead of the kinetic projectiles and electromagnetic pulses the Devourers expected, the ships deployed quantum disruptor beams that interfered with machine intelligence networks. Engineer Tae-Min Lee watched the battle from his hidden laboratory in the asteroid belt. His experimental weapons were performing perfectly. The quantum disruptors didn't just damage Devourer ships, they severed the connections between machine minds, turning their coordination advantage into chaotic confusion. "Fleet Commander Kim, are you seeing this data?" he asked over the secure channel. "Yes, Engineer Lee. How long before they adapt to the quantum disruptors?" "Based on their learning patterns from previous encounters, I estimate 6 to 8 hours. After that, they'll have developed countermeasures." "Perfect. That gives Captain Han enough time to complete her mission and withdraw before they figure out our new technology." The battle lasted exactly 7 hours. The human fleet destroyed over 800 Devourer vessels while losing only 23 ships. More importantly, they successfully evacuated 2 million civilians from Altair Prime before the planet's defenses finally collapsed. As the humans withdrew, the surviving Devourers began analyzing the wreckage and battle data. Their collective intelligence worked to understand and counter the new human tactics and weapons. Back on Earth, Director Woo Jin Kang briefed the inner cabinet on humanity's true strategic situation. The meeting took place in a secure chamber, 3 kilometers underground, protected by every security measure human technology could provide. "The deception continues to hold," he reported. "The aliens believe we've now committed our entire military to this war. They have no idea about the real scope of our preparations." "How long can we maintain this illusion?" asked the Secretary of Defense. "As long as necessary," Kang replied. "We have 17 more tactical approaches ready for deployment. Each time the Devourers adapt to our current methods, we can introduce something completely new." Professor Min I-jung presented her latest research findings to the cabinet. "The Devourers are not just learning from their battles with us. They're absorbing the neural patterns of every species they defeat. This is making them more intelligent and more dangerous with each victory." "But not human neural patterns," Kang noted. "Correct. Human brain chemistry remains incompatible with their absorption process. More importantly, I've discovered that our thought patterns actively disrupt their collective intelligence. The more humans they encounter in battle, the less coordinated they become. The Secretary of Science leaned forward. Are you saying that humanity is naturally immune to their primary advantage? More than immune, Professor Jung replied. We're like a virus in their system. Extended contact with human minds causes cascade failures in their network connections. This revelation changed everything. Humanity wasn't just another species in this war. They were the Devourer's natural enemy. Meanwhile, Captain Yunji Han was debriefing her crews after the Altair Prime battle. Her ships had returned to the hidden staging area in the Kuiper Belt, far from alien observation. How did our new coordination system perform? She asked her tactical officer. The network tethering worked perfectly, Commander Dalsu Kim reported. The Devourers couldn't target individual ships effectively when we were linked together. Their weapons were designed for engaging single targets, not flexible formations. What about crew performance under the neural link? That's where it gets interesting, Captain. When our crews were linked through the quantum network, they reported feeling the Devourer confusion directly. Several officers said it felt like the machines were experiencing pain when we disrupted their connections. This confirmed what the scientists had theorized. Humans weren't just immune to Devourer mental attacks. They could actively damage the machine's collective consciousness. Admiral Kyung-ho Park continued his performance for the Galactic Council, appearing increasingly worried about humanity's position in the war. He met privately with Council Leader Veltareth to discuss the deteriorating situation. Our casualties are mounting, Kyung-ho said, allowing genuine concern to color his voice. We've now lost over 50 ships and our remaining forces are showing signs of combat fatigue. Your species has shown remarkable courage, Veltareth replied. But the Devourers continue to adapt to every tactic we use against them. They're learning faster than we can develop new strategies. Perhaps, Kyung-ho suggested carefully, it's time to consider more desperate measures. My government has been researching some experimental approaches, but they're highly dangerous and untested. Veltareth's 6 eyes focused intently on the human admiral. What kind of experimental approaches? I cannot give details without authorization from Earth. But our scientists believe they may have found a way to disrupt Devourer coordination on a system-wide scale. The risk is enormous. If it fails, we could lose everything. This was the next phase of the deception. Plant the seed that humanity had secret weapons they were hesitant to use, preparing the aliens for the eventual revelation of humanity's true capabilities. Commander Yi Jun Seo sent his encrypted report to Fleet Commander So-young Kim. Phase 2 complete. The aliens now believe we're at our limit but have secret experimental weapons. The Devourers have adapted to our current tactics as predicted, ready for Phase 3 deployment. So-young smiled as she read the message. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. The galaxy thought they had seen humanity's maximum effort, but the real war was about to begin. In hidden bases across human space, 500,000 ships waited in perfect readiness. The Devourers launched their final assault without warning. 50,000 machine ships materialized around Nexus Prime, the galactic capital that housed the council chambers and the combined fleet headquarters. Their massive motherships blotted out the stars while countless smaller vessels swarmed like angry insects around the planet's defenses. Admiral Korthak stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his sensors count the impossible number of enemy vessels. The remaining alien fleets had managed to gather only 8,000 ships for the defense of their capital world. They were outnumbered more than 6 to 1 by an enemy that had already proven superior to their technology. All ships, this is Admiral Korthak's, he broadcast to the desperate fleet. Today we make our final stand. If we fall here, the Devourers will consume every world in the galaxy. Fight with honor, and may our sacrifice buy time for others to escape. The alien vessels moved into their traditional battle formations, energy, shields glowing brightly in the darkness, their plasma weapons charged to full power, ready to sell their lives as dearly as possible. On the surface of Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council met in emergency session. Panic filled the Great Chamber as representatives from dozens of species argued about evacuation plans and desperate last-minute strategies. Council Leader Veltareth called for order with all 4 of his arms raised. The defense fleet reports. They can hold for perhaps 6 hours before being overwhelmed. We must use this time to evacuate critical personnel and government archives. Admiral Kyung-ho Park rose from his seat, his face grave but determined. Council leader, I've received authorization from Earth to reveal certain classified information about human military capabilities. The chamber fell silent. Every alien eye focused on the human representative who had seemed so humble and worried throughout the war. What kind of information? Veltareth asked. Kyung-ho activated his holographic display, but instead of the simple projection that had sparked and flickered before, advanced human technology filled the air above them. Three-dimensional star maps showed the entire local, galactic region in perfect detail. Honored council members, I must confess that my government has not been entirely honest about our military situation. A Valorian representative stood up angrily. What do you mean? Have you been holding back ships while our worlds burned? Not holding back, Kyung-ho replied calmly. Preparing. The holographic display changed, showing hidden installations throughout human space. Asteroid bases revealed themselves, their surfaces opening to expose massive shipyards. Hollow moons split apart to show weapon testing facilities. Deep space stations that had been invisible to alien sensors suddenly appeared on the map. 3 years since our first intelligence reports about the Devourer threat, humanity has been mobilizing for total war. Every aspect of our civilization has been focused on preparing for this conflict. The aliens stared in shock as the true scope of human preparation became clear. The display showed not hundreds of hidden ships, but thousands, then tens of thousands. The numbers kept climbing until even the most advanced alien mathematicians struggled to comprehend the scale. How many ships? Whispered a Thessian representative. 500,000 vessels in the first real fleet alone, Kyung-ho replied. With supporting craft and specialized units, our total military deployment exceeds 700,000 ships. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Aliens shouted questions in dozens of languages, their voices mixing into a symphony of disbelief and anger. This is impossible, shouted Admiral Korthax over the communication link from his flagship. We've monitored your space for years. We've visited your worlds. Where were you hiding such a massive fleet? Dr. Haijin Choi stepped forward, no longer appearing nervous or overwhelmed. Her voice carried new authority as she addressed the council. You monitored what we wanted you to see. You visited the worlds we wanted you to visit. Every cultural exchange, every diplomatic mission, every trade agreement was designed to reinforce your impression of humanity as a minor, primitive species. But why? Veltareth demanded. Why deceive us when we could have been allies? Kyung-ho's expression remained serious. Because we needed to study our enemies without them knowing what we were capable of. The Devourers adapt to every tactic they encounter. If they had known about our real military strength from the beginning, they would have prepared countermeasures. The holographic display changed again, showing the current positions of Devourer ships around Nexus Prime. Red markers appeared, indicating weak points in their formation that only human tactical analysis had identified. But they don't know about us yet, Kyung-ho continued. They think they're fighting a desperate alliance of primitive species using obsolete tactics. They have no idea what human warfare actually looks like. As if summoned by his words, new contacts began appearing on the defense fleet's sensors. Ships were materializing throughout the Nexus Prime system, their stealth systems deactivating to reveal hulls unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Admiral Subin Oh stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, flagship of the first real fleet. Around her, the command crew worked with practiced efficiency, coordinating the largest military operation in human history. All fleet commanders report status, she ordered. Siege Breaker Division ready, reported Admiral Dong-hyun Lim. 3,000 heavy assault ships standing by for breakthrough operations. Deep Strike Division in position, confirmed Admiral Jia Young-yoon. 2,000 stealth ships have bypassed Devourer perimeter defenses. Experimental Weapons Group online, added Admiral Hyun-woo Shin. Quantum disruption arrays charged and ready. Subin studied the tactical display showing 50,000 Devourer ships arranged around Nexus Prime. Her 500,000 vessels were positioned throughout the system, hidden by stealth technology that made human ships invisible to machine sensors. This is Admiral O to all human forces, she broadcast. Today we reveal what humanity truly is. We are not the weak species the galaxy believed us to be. We are the species that wins wars others think are impossible. All ships execute Operation Overwhelming Response. The space around Nexus Prime suddenly filled with human warships. They appeared from nowhere, their stealth systems deactivating, simultaneously to reveal the true scope of humanity's military power. The Devourer fleet, which had seemed impossibly large moments before, was suddenly outnumbered 10-1, but numbers were only part of the revelation. The human ships looked nothing like the crude vessels that had fought in the support division. These were war machines designed by a species that had spent centuries perfecting the art of destruction. Admiral Korthax watched from his flagship as human vessels larger than space stations materialized around his small defensive fleet. By the ancient gods, he whispered, what have we been sharing the galaxy with? The human fleet moved like nothing the aliens had ever seen. Instead of rigid formations, they flowed like liquid metal around the Devourer positions. Individual. Ships coordinated so perfectly they seemed to share a single mind. Captain Xunhuan Bei led the first wave of boarding operations against Devourer motherships. His Marines wore armor that incorporated alien technology humans had been secretly studying for years, combined with human engineering that prioritized survival over elegance. Remember your training, he told his troops as their assault pods launched toward the nearest machine vessel. These things learn from every encounter, but they've never encountered us before. Use that advantage. The boarding pods penetrated Devourer hulls that had resisted every alien weapon. Human cutting tools, powered by contained fusion reactions, carved through machine armor like paper. The Marines inside carried weapons that disrupted artificial intelligence networks and electromagnetic pulses that short-circuited machine nervous systems. For the first time in their existence, the Devourers encountered an enemy they couldn't analyze or predict. Commander Yuna Zhang's fighter squadrons performed maneuvers that violated alien understanding of physics. Her pilots used human reflexes and intuition to outfly artificial intelligences that could calculate millions of variables per second. The machines fight like computers, she explained to her wing leaders. They calculate the optimal response to every situation. But humans don't fight optimally. We fight creatively. We do things that don't make sense, and that breaks their prediction algorithms. Professor Minnie Jung monitored the battle from her research station, watching as her theories about human Devourer incompatibility played out on a massive scale. Every human ship that engaged machine forces caused cascade failures in the Devourer network. Fleet Commander Kim, the neural disruption effect is even stronger than we predicted, she reported. The Devourers are losing coordination across their entire fleet. Their collective intelligence is breaking down. The battle turned into a rout within the first hour. Devourer ships that had conquered dozens of alien worlds found themselves helpless against human tactics they couldn't comprehend. Their adaptive capabilities, their greatest strength, became a weakness as they tried to analyze enemies that fought without following any recognizable patterns. Admiral Kyung-Ho Park stood before the Galactic Council as reports from the battle reached the chamber. The Battle of Nexus Prime raged for 18 hours, but the outcome was decided in the first 30 minutes. The Devourer fleet, which had seemed invincible against alien forces, found itself completely outmatched by human warfare. Admiral Kyung-Ho Park made the decision that would define the rest of the battle. Standing on the bridge of his command ship, he looked out at the massive Devourer mothership that served as their central command node. The moon-sized construct had coordinated machine forces across the galaxy for thousands of years. All ships, this is Admiral Park, he broadcast to the human fleet. That command ship is the brain of their entire network. If we can destroy it, we can break their coordination permanently. Admiral Subin O responded immediately. Admiral Park, our analysis shows the mothership's defenses are too strong for conventional assault. We would need to sacrifice dozens of ships to penetrate their shields. Kyung-Ho studied the tactical display, watching as human fighters danced around massive Devourer vessels. His people were winning, but the cost was climbing with each passing hour. Every minute they delayed, meant more human lives lost. Then we don't use conventional assault, he decided. Prepare the UES determination for ramming speed. I'm going to pilot it into their command center personally. The bridge crew fell silent. The determination was Admiral Park's flagship, a massive dreadnought that housed the command systems for the entire operation. Sir, you can't, protested his tactical officer. The fleet needs your coordination. The fleet needs that mothership destroyed more than it needs me, Kyung-ho replied. He turned to his communications officer. Transfer fleet command to Admiral. Oh, evacuate all non-essential personnel to escort ships. Captain Seung-hwan Bae had just finished clearing his third Devourer mothership when he received Admiral Park's transmission. His boarding teams had developed tactics that turned the machine's adaptive capabilities against them. Marines, listen up, he told his troops as they prepared for their next assault. The Admiral is making a final run at their command ship. Our job is to clear a path through their defense grid. His fighters and Marines had discovered something important during their boarding operations. The Devourers absorbed information from every species they encountered, but human neural patterns caused their collective intelligence to malfunction. The more humans they tried to analyze, the more confused their network became. Use the confusion protocol, Seung-hwan ordered. Get as many boarding parties onto those defense platforms as possible. Make them try to understand us. Commander Yuna Jiang led her fighter squadrons in support of the boarding operations. Her pilots had been flying impossible attack patterns that broke every rule of space combat, and the results were devastating to machine intelligence. The Devourers keep trying to predict our movements, she explained to her wing leaders. But humans don't fly by mathematics, we fly by instinct and creativity. Every time they think they understand our patterns, we do something completely different. Her fighters swarmed around Devourer defense platforms, their chaotic flight, paths overloading the machine's targeting systems. While the artificial intelligences struggled to track unpredictable human movements, boarding pods slipped through their defenses. The UES determination accelerated toward the Devourer mothership, its hull glowing from the friction of passing through energy fields and debris. Admiral Park had dismissed most of his crew, keeping only the volunteers needed to navigate and maintain the ship's systems. Admiral, we're taking massive damage, reported his engineering officer, Lieutenant Commander Haisu Cho. Hull integrity is down to 40%. Keep us moving, Park ordered. We only need to hold together for another 10 minutes. Behind them, the rest of the human fleet was systematically dismantling the Devourer forces. Admiral Subin Oh coordinated the assault from her flagship, watching as 50,000 enemy ships were reduced to scattered debris. Admiral Park, we've cleared most of their escort vessels, she reported. You have a clear approach to the mothership. The Devourer command ship was the size of a small moon, its surface covered in weapon batteries and shield generators. As the determination approached, every gun on the massive vessel turned toward the single human ship racing toward its heart. All power to forward shields, Park ordered. Engineering, I need everything the engines can give us. The ship shuddered under the impact of thousands of energy beams, but the specially reinforced hull held together. Human engineering had designed the determination to survive damage that would destroy any alien vessel, and now that durability was being tested to its limits. Professor Min A. Jung monitored the assault from her research station, tracking the effect of human presence on the Devourer network. Her instruments showed cascading failures spreading through their collective intelligence as more boarding parties penetrated their ships. Fleet Commander Kim, the neural disruption is reaching critical levels, she reported. The Devourer network is beginning to collapse on itself. So young Kim watched the battle from Earth's command center, 3 years of planning finally coming to fruition. How long until complete network failure? If Admiral Park succeeds in destroying their command ship, the entire Devourer collective will lose coordination within minutes. Without their central intelligence, they'll revert to individual machine intelligences with no strategic capability. The determination punched through the mothership's outer defenses, its armored hull crushing through energy barriers and physical obstacles. The ship's structure groaned and buckled, but Admiral Park pressed forward into the heart of the machine. Vessel. This is Admiral Park to all human forces, he broadcast as his ship penetrated the final defense layer. It has been an honor to serve with you all. Take care of the galaxy for us. The Determination's fusion reactors overloaded at the exact moment the ship reached the mothership's central processor core. The explosion tore through the heart of the Devourer command structure, severing connections that had linked machine intelligences across the galaxy for millennia. Within seconds, the effect rippled outward. Devourer ships that had moved with perfect coordination suddenly became isolated units with no central guidance. Their adaptive capabilities, designed to function as part of a collective network, became useless without the central intelligence to process and distribute information. Admiral Subino watched as the remaining Devourer forces fell into chaos. Ships that had been executing complex battle plans moments before now wandered aimlessly through space, their individual intelligences too limited to function effectively. All ships, continue the assault, she ordered. Destroy them before they can regroup. The final phase of the battle lasted only 2 hours. Without coordination, the Devourer ships fell easily to human tactics. Vessels that had seemed invincible when supported by collective intelligence proved vulnerable when forced to fight alone. Captain Yoonji Han led the final cleanup operations, her ships hunting down scattered machine vessels throughout the system. Remember, no survivors, she told her crews. These things learn and adapt. We can't risk leaving even one functional ship. When the last Devourer vessel was destroyed, silence fell across the Nexus Prime system. The space around the galactic capital was filled with debris from the greatest space battle in recorded history, but humanity had achieved total victory. Admiral Subino stood before the Galactic Council as the final battle reports were compiled. The alien representatives looked at her with a mixture of awe, fear, and respect that had been completely absent when they first met humanity. The Devourer threat has been eliminated, she reported. Our deep space sensors confirm no remaining machine activity in any of the affected systems. The galaxy is safe. Council leader Veltereth spoke for all the assembled aliens. Admiral, I must ask the question that troubles us all. If humanity possessed such military capability, why did you allow us to believe you were weak? Why let alien worlds burn while you prepared in secret? Subin's expression remained grave. Because revealing our strength too early would have doomed us all. The Devourers adapted to every tactic they encountered. If they had known about human capabilities from the beginning, they would have developed countermeasures that made our victory impossible. But the cost in alien lives was far less than the cost would have been if we had failed, Subin replied firmly. Every human death in this war was a volunteer who understood the stakes. Every alien death was mourned by our people. But we could not save individuals at the cost of galactic civilization. Dr. Hee-Jin Choi stepped forward to address the council. Her nervous demeanor was completely gone, replaced by the confidence of someone who had helped orchestrate the greatest military deception in history. The truth is that humanity has been preparing for this war since our first contact with galactic civilization, she explained. Every cultural exchange, every diplomatic mission, every trade agreement was designed to gather intelligence while maintaining the impression that we were primitive and harmless. For 3 years, our entire species focused on a single goal: developing the capability to defeat an enemy that had never been defeated. We studied Devourer technology, analyzed their tactics, and designed weapons specifically to counter their advantages.